hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. You are watching Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, I break down the most interesting subjects, the most controversial topics, the most contested debates going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. We got a lot of stuff to cover, but I am joined by one of my favorite people in the whole world, an extra special guest. Y'all know him, Van Lathan. Greetings, sir. Oh, shit.
And still growing in. Fresh off the hair transplant. What's going on, Mark? How you doing, brother?
I'm good, bro. And people in the comments are writing in. Karen D said, "Hey, Van the man with a new hairline." You are somebody who didn't just get the new hairline. You told people. I might not have even noticed because you wear a hat so often. But you went on the Instagrams and showed the work. What made you want to do it that way?
Cause it's more fun that way.
Is it?
Yeah, it's more fun that way. It's more fun. Getting the hair transplant was such an interesting experience. First of all, here's the deal: you're having cosmetic surgery. You're doing something because you want to feel better. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for you. So why hide it, right? If I was a big Hollywood star to where I had to convince people that I was eternally beautiful, then maybe you don't. But I'm a nigga from Baton Rouge. I wanted my corners back, and I went and got them back. No regrets.
You said you did it for you. Was it like was it just like I look in the mirror and I miss my old hairline?
What happened was this. I was at the gym working out. And bro, I'm telling you, man, I'm one of those guys that's really susceptible to advertising and a sales pitch. A good sales pitch, and you got Van, right? Got me. Listen to me. Hairline back in already in the third person. And I'm working out, and this guy comes up to me. He goes, he saw me talking to somebody in the gym who was famous, and he goes, "Wow, you know him, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's back TMZ stuff. I used to work at TMZ, so I know some people." And then he goes, "Can I say something to you?" And whenever somebody asks me that question, I'm always like super duper intrigued. I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "Wouldn't take a lot of work. Right there, and right there. I'd take 15 years off you." He's like, you got the whole black don't crack thing. He said that. I let it slide because I was intrigued. He was like, take 15 years off of you. And he was the doctor that runs the place in Beverly Hills. So because he said it wouldn't be that big of a deal, I went there and had the consultation. When I'm sitting down for the consultation, you sit down in this seat and they shoot your hair from the top.
Oh.
Okay. They shoot your hair from the top and they put that light on and you can't be saved. You can't be saved by the height. You can't be saved by the part, by the angle they show you. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. I put it off for like a year, but if I didn't do it this time, I wasn't gonna be able to get it done until February. So I went ahead and did it.
Man, I'm glad that you did something to make you feel better. You got me looking at my very, very vulnerable hairline. I mean, unfortunately, I've had this same hairline since I was like 6. So now it's age appropriate, but I went through high school looking like an insurance salesman. So now I got to figure out whether I want to do something better or not. But watching you do that and looking at these other people our age with these sturdy ass hairlines, now I'm like, I might need to touch it up a little bit.
It was crazy how many people reached out. So many people reached out. Van hooked me up with the plug. Van hooked me up with the plug. Van hooked me up with the plug. I put so many people on with Zarian that Zarian hit me back and it was like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna give you $750 for everybody that books. Isabella over there, she goes, it's you're so influential. And I'm like, it's not that I'm influential, I'm just being honest about it.
Right.
And like because I'm being honest about it, it makes people feel, look, I'm not saying everybody should go do it. It does say something about you that you want, that I'm vain enough to care about that. I could just cut my hair or do whatever, but I cared. I went and did it and it looks good. This is what I'll say. This was the whole BBL conversation. Going to Miami in a couple of days, and when you go to Miami, you're down there, you think this is the city where they are BBL. You know, eat it, take your fat, put it in there a little bit. I feel like we lost the plot with the BBL a little bit, but a lot of times, ladies, they want to feel a little bit more voluptuous. You want to feel a little bit better, as long as it's healthy, as long as it's safe, as long as it's reputable done. Have a ball. You're only here one time. Fuck it.
I think the interesting thing when women do it though is that we've created these impossible body standards for women. So a lot of times they say they're doing it for them, but they're doing it for us. Whereas I feel like women aren't. I mean, they notice when our hairline looks crazy, but they're not like controlling or exercising the power in a way where we feel like we got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like for me the BBL thing and all the other stuff is that so much of it we say is like to empower women and for women to do the, you know, to make themselves happy, but a lot of it is just patriarchy in a different costume.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think I'm going to litigate stuff like that anymore. I think I'm out of the game. I think I'm to the point now to where everybody's kind of doing what they want to do, so just do it. And if it crosses me or my people, we can have a conversation. But if it's not my business, I'm staying out of it. Okay? Like if it ain't got nothing to do with me, I'm staying out of it. All right? Tell you this though. A part of this is a lot deeper, and it has to do with all of these other things that we realize we have very little control over. Like if you've ever dunked a basketball and then one day you can't do it anymore, you go, God damn, it really happens. Like it really happens. Like one day you look up and you're the old guy on the court that's shooting one dribble pull-ups and got to take a break. You playing every other game, the whole nine. You're looking at kids and you're going, boy, if this was
96,
I'll bust your ass. You know what I'm saying? And those are things that you really can't. Those are things that you really can't control. You really can't control them. But you start looking at the things that you can't control and just going, if it makes me feel a little bit better in this time, I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
I ain't mad at that. All right. I want to talk to you about a couple of things, man. One of them, the biggest story that has come out in our community, especially tonight, or over the weekend rather, was Jay-Z thing. Obviously, for anybody on the planet that does not know, Jay-Z was added to a civil lawsuit this past weekend, specifically yesterday, where he's accused of having sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl, along with rapper Sean Diddy Combs. The suit initially only named Diddy. They made an addendum that added Jay-Z to it. The person who made the accusation filed under the name Jane Doe. Within an hour or two of the case becoming public to us, Jay-Z posted something, according to my sources, from his own iPhone, live and direct, onto the Rock Nation Twitter page or X page, and broke down his position on. We read that last night. I see a lot of people coming out in defense of Jay-Z. I see a lot of people saying he handled it properly. I see some people exercising caution. It's a very, very, for me, surprising situation for a few reasons. What are you making of all of this?
A couple of things here. We talk about this on Higher Learning in Depth tomorrow, and I would encourage everybody to listen to Higher Learning.
Yes.
The Higher Learning podcast. A couple of things here. I go into depth about why Tony Busby, the lawyer who filed this against Jay-Z, is going to see the most fierce response to anything he's ever done. You better be buttoned up, because the institutions that will protect Jay-Z, it's far different than anything that we've seen. Lots of different places, cultural places, business places, a different class of people will protect Jay-Z because of what it is that he represents. And to be quite frankly, quite frank, should I say, some of the access he allows those people to Black culture. Okay, so that's one thing. Tony Busby will get a different type of pushback now. The only other things I thought was this: if you look at the whole case and the way things played out, they made Jay-Z and his people aware of this, and then they wanted to enter into a mediation. That didn't happen. The Rock Nation Jay-Z side said there'll be none of that. There wasn't a direct dollar amount asked. However, they wanted to talk. It's a civil case, so there's nothing else to talk about besides money. They said no. Called their bluff. They made an addendum to it, put his name in it. All right. You can look at that however many ways you want to look at it. That they were looking for a payday from Jay-Z, or at least to start the conversation about a payday from Jay-Z. He said no, and so they put his name in the lawsuit. You can look at it as whoever this Jane Doe is didn't want her name attached to this, didn't want what was going to come with entanglement with such a cultural titan, so they wanted to do it on the hush hush. Jay-Z didn't want that, and they said no. I think the more interesting thing is where this leaves people in terms of their relationship to luminaries that they've always admired. Had it not been for the Cassie video, a sizable portion of our culture and media writ large would not believe any of the allegations against Puff.
Yeah.
They would say Puff was freaky. They would say Puff was, his carnal appetite was more than most, but they wouldn't believe that he was capable of some of the things that were alleged in that lawsuit and in others. Now we're to the point where whatever you say about him, people believe it, no matter what it is. With Jay-Z, there is a level of discipline, control, smoothness, suaveness. There's a level of there's an air of royalty to him that a lot of people live and die with. Like, niggas love Jay-Z.
He is
like,
the patron saint of the hood. Like, yeah, for sure.
He is the best case scenario for so many of them. That's a hill that a lot of people are willing to die on. There is nothing that has been released right now that should change any of that for anyone. And this is what I mean. If you loved Jay-Z Saturday night, you can still love him today. This is an allegation. If you choose to believe that men in powerful situations endeavor into activity like this all the time, and you believe the account of this, that's okay too. We should not be making any moral judgments based upon who believes this, who doesn't believe this. We talked to Megan Cuniff on the show. The question I asked her is, how much of an investigation do you think Tony Busby's people did before they brought this? Like, what do they have? She's like, they have some photographs. They have some, this is something that happened in the year 2000, but it's going to be the victim's account and whatever the third person that was in this room said as well. The third person is apparently another female celebrity.
So I want to ask you about that, by the way, just as a side track, because this was brought to my attention. I haven't read all the details yet, but I did read the earlier draft of the complaint. A couple of these cases have an unnamed celebrity woman in them. In my household, we got our fingers crossed, praying it ain't a certain, somebody or this person or that person. Do we have a sense that this is the same person across these cases? Do you have a sense that this, like, that it's one person who's like part of the crew that's witnessing all this horrific stuff that's being accused, or is that just part of the legal strategy here from Busby to always say there was another person there who saw it too?
I don't know. I think everyone's going to have different thoughts on who might be close to either of those guys, and they're going to use the time frame and their associations at that time to speculate. Eventually, the name of that third person will be released, or it will be made public, and then when that happens, we'll get a better understanding. But we're in such a murky time right now. For the people who aren't involved in celebrity life or covering celebrity stuff, we're doing our best to try to figure out which way to go about this makes us good people. Like, which way to go about this makes us okay, not the bad people. Meaning, are you a good person if you say, I need actual physical evidence or the adjudication of this before I would believe this? Or are you the good person if you say, somebody said that this happened, so that it happened? So people are trying to figure out how they're supposed to deal with this and how they're supposed to look at this. And I think it's a more interesting situation from that standpoint, because Jay-Z's problems are Jay-Z's problems. It's a more interesting standpoint in what it says about us than it is anything else.
You worked at TMZ. You saw celebrity rollouts for all kinds of stuff. I remember one time you kind of broke down the sex tape release strategy, where you knew when a sex tape was being released by a celebrity because they wanted it released and they wanted to kind of pretend they didn't. And you knew when someone was really shocked by it, by how they handled it. Is there anything about the way Jay-Z is handling this that is consistent with or different than other celebrities who we've determined did it or didn't do it? Is there anything about this that you see following a pattern?
Fantastic question. I would say the aggressiveness in which he responded is interesting. Normally, when someone is aggressive in their response, they're aggressive in saying, there is no way I would have ever done this. Jay-Z assumes you don't believe this.
Is that a strategy, or do you think he really just assumes that?
No, he doesn't think anyone would ever believe this about him.
Okay.
I mean, it says in the response, the only people that are going to believe that I had anything to do with something like this are the kooks and the idiots. It's laughable. So he assumes you won't believe this about him. Once again, Jay-Z's bulletproof veneer. He didn't take the time to say, I've always maintained this, and I've never done this, and I won't do that, and I won't be involved in this, and I won't have any of that. He didn't take the time to do that. He said, the accusation is laughable, and Tony Busby, I'm going to take you apart. That is responding in a way that I don't quite remember. I can't think of anyone who, in their response, didn't offer a vehement denial and explanation of their character. Now, I'm not saying he didn't offer that because he's guilty. I'm saying he didn't offer it because he feels like we know him.
Yeah.
So normally you get something like this, and there's been so many guys that have been accused of stuff like that. You get, I would never, but no, laughable. Let me tell you what I'm gonna do to you. Let me tell you what I'm gonna do to you now. Skirted the whole thing. Let me tell you what I'm gonna do to you. I am who I am. Everybody knows me, but I got something for you. I'm gonna make an example out of you. And like I said before, Busby is going to find out. Tell you a story real quick. So when I was working at TMZ, the whole Kaepernick Rock Nation thing was going on. And there was like, I was motioned over to somebody's desk and they were telling me stuff about Colin Kaepernick. They were saying stuff. They were like, hey, Colin Kaepernick doesn't really want to play. Colin Kaepernick is this and this and that and blah, 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 and all of this stuff. And I have been hearing this narrative go around from other places.
Yeah.
Like about
that too.
ways that he messed up and all of that stuff. I've been hearing it go around. I remember I'm at this person's desk. I'm like, we shouldn't publish this story. Like, we shouldn't do this story just because if we publish this story and give any type of insight on what he wants to do or how he's acting, if we publish this, then we're taking a stand in the fight between Colin Kaepernick and the NFL. Right? And I'm like, it's probably not a good idea. So we didn't publish it. Moments later, another story came in. And that story was the fact that Jay-Z was interested in buying an NFL team. And that the thing that he was doing with the NFL was a pathway and a roadmap to him getting an NFL team. Now, this was in the midst of him going back and forth with Kaepernick over the fact that he had decided to work with the NFL, right? And he was being made to look bad. What I'm saying is that both of those stories were coming from Roc Nation to TMZ. Both the story that was going to be damaging to Colin Kaepernick was coming from Roc Nation. And then the story that was trying to position it as if Jay-Z was going to get a chance to buy an NFL team. And you can look that up. That was also coming from Roc Nation.
Why would Roc Nation want to send information that Colin Kaepernick didn't really want to play football, et cetera, et cetera?
To make him look bad.
Because
he was in a back and forth with Jay-Z.
I remember when that was happening, and some people on the ground were telling me that there was some tension, but that Jay was actually trying to help Colin get an NFL job, and then there was some fallout about that afterward. Certainly the whole, we're past kneeling quote didn't help calm the tensions. But I do remember that drama. I think part of why I'm asking this question is because I don't think the audience sometimes understands, if you're not in this business, sort of what happens behind the scenes, how much of the stories that we just happen to discover are very carefully orchestrated and organized, and how many celebrities are 10 steps ahead of any story that comes out about them and making it happen, particularly the powerful ones.
But understand though, what I'm saying right now, that doesn't necessarily have to even cross Jay-Z's desk. He might not even know about how those media games are getting played. They might be being played on his behalf. Right. His currency is both in actual dollars, right? Like, I'm super rich. I'm Jay-Z. I got all of this money. But the Jay-Z is richer than anyone in hip hop in cultural currency. That's the thing that's most valuable to him. He's richer in cultural currency. He's richer in the, I don't ever take a loss. I win all the time. I get all of this. He's richer in that than anyone. And anything that's going to cost him that type of currency, he's going to the mattresses. So the thing between him and Cap was a situation to where people had deified Colin Kaepernick for the stance that he took against the NFL, and rightly so, right? People had deified him for that. And when Jay-Z started to work with the NFL, or Roc Nation started to work with the NFL, people were pissed off. And when I watched it, oh, well, they were kind of trying to do him a little bit. But that's how the game goes. And so what I'm saying is that if that's the case with Cap, who, like him, love him, or hate him, he got his career ruined for taking a stand against police brutality. That's just the facts. Maybe he didn't do everything in the particularly right way that people would have wanted him to do it.
He absolutely did not.
And I get it, right? And maybe there are all kinds of things, but brass tacks is he decided, I don't like police brutality. I'm going to kneel for the flag. and they conspired to take his livelihood away from him. They corporately lynched him, and that's just a reality of it, right?
You mentioned corporate lynchings. I want to bring up a comment that someone wrote here. Xavier B wrote it and said, Puffy sued liquor company. Who did Jay-Z upset? The implicit argument here is that Diddy's in jail because he sued Diageo. And the idea that whatever is going on with Jay-Z is because he pissed off some powerful person. Are we incapable of holding people in our community accountable without always having a conspiracy theory where they were about to buy a network or take down a liquor company or that somebody's mad? And again, I'm not saying that to say that Jay-Z's guilty. I actually happen to think that this story needs to be unpacked, and nothing about this story right now makes me say, oh, guilty, because I don't trust BuzzFeed. I don't even know if there is a person. I don't even know if there is really a Jane Doe behind this this documented unscrupulous lawyer. But I do know that famous people do shit wrong. And I do know that sexual assault really does happen. And it seems like whether it's Bill Cosby or Diddy, we get into this mode where we like, nah, they were running for president. That's why they doing it. There's always a thing. What does that mean?
It's mythology. It's been going on. I've heard that narrative longer in my life than I've heard anything else. And it comes from something that's very real. It comes from the fact that we know that we had a thriving community in Greenwood and they dropped bombs from planes and then use urban renewal to destroy it. We know that they've used the medical industry. We know that they've used the media. We know that they've used housing discrimination, food discrimination, environmental discrimination. We don't have a handle about what they won't do. So if someone says they would do this just because a black man got too powerful, we can't say that they wouldn't, because they've done worse. Like, we can't say that they wouldn't. The only thing that gets lost sometimes in this is when the victims and the people that we're talking about are also black. Now, I'm not saying that victims come from a situation to where there's a hierarchy, but I'm always interested in the situation when someone says they're doing this to a black man to take down a black man, and the gaggle of people who are accusing this person of misconduct are black women. Or this is and so to me, I see a lot of hypocrisy in that. But in terms of, do black people ever do bad stuff? Yeah, we do. But when a powerful black man falls, we're looking to see who is trying to trip him. I can't hear you.
It worries me that we then end up just closing ranks around the black man at the expense of that black woman. Let me look at Clarence Thomas. And Clarence Thomas has done more harm to our community just being on that bench than most people had the capacity to do in a single lifetime.
Without doubt.
He was garbage going in. He was garbage when George H.W. Bush appointed him. And we still stood with him and against Anita Hill, because we seemed committed to having him win, or at least to seeing her lose when these conversations come up, when these conversations come up about sexual violence and sexual assault. And it seems like that happens over and over and over again. Now with Bill Cosby, they were white women largely, but there was a way that, and there were some black women in there too, though, but there was a way that, again, it was like, look, we hear all these allegations. They seem kind of credible. Even Bill Cosby's own deposition, he's like, yes, I gave them this thing, these drugs under these circumstances. I mean, and yet we're still like, yeah, but he made the Cosby Show. Yeah, he's going by NBC. And it concerns me. Busha Bandaloo writes in and says, no, Mark, Clarence Thomas is not the problem. Okay, Busha Bandaloo. So there's lots of layers and levels to this. Man, I'm gonna move on to another story because I need your opinion on a lot of things before we go. One of the big stories that came out today also was Daniel Penny. For those that don't know, Daniel Penny was the man on a New York City subway train who placed Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man with a history of mental illness, in a chokehold. The idea was that, or the story as we understand it, the indisputable facts are Jordan Neely and Daniel Penny were on the train. Jordan Neely was causing a ruckus. He was making noise, yelling threats, etc. Some people said they felt unsafe. Others were probably like, it's New York, it's a subway, right? We kind of all. I don't want to normalize that, but like the courtroom kind of made it sound like every time somebody screams in New York on a train, everybody loses their mind and gets terrified. It's like you can't ride 3 stops on New York on a Friday without somebody interrupting you. You go here, excuse me, can I get your attention? You're gonna see somebody falling asleep in the corner. You're gonna see somebody else high. You're gonna see somebody else yelling, and somebody might scare the hell out of you. Again, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying this is the backdrop of a New York subway train. Anyway, Daniel Penny decides to get up and he places Jordan Neely in a chokehold. He was in that chokehold not for 15 minutes, like some of the allegations say, but somewhere between 5 and 6 minutes, nonstop. There were even moments where people yelled out, "You're going to kill him," or "You're killing him." That's also indisputable. The question just becomes, what do you do in a case like this, where maybe Jordan Neely was scaring the shit out of people, and maybe the idea of subduing him wasn't the worst idea, but he also held him and choked him for a very long time. And this guy was a Marine. He had some level of combat training. He had some understanding of the human body. It wasn't like it was out of nowhere that he made the decision to do this. The jury said he's not guilty. And a lot of people, including Mayor Eric Adams, are saying this was the right decision.
Yeah.
How'd you make sense of this?
I didn't. I mean, authority in America exists to protect white people from black people. That's what it exists. Like police exist to protect capitalism. They exist to protect people from encroaching upon the lives of the quote unquote real Americans. And if the real Americans are scared, and if the people that are doing the scaring are black, you can do whatever you want to. I'm sure that this guy wasn't trying to kill Jordan Neely, but he did. He killed him. He killed a guy. He killed a guy. He went too far. He held on too long, and he killed a guy. Think about this. We talk about death as a part of a news story, right?
Yeah.
In 1 trillion years, Jordan Neely will still be dead. He doesn't respawn. It's over. That's it. Done.
Yeah.
Like, finished. He's a billion years, 1 trillion years, 2 trillion years. He'll still be dead. The question is, did he have to die right then? And the answer is almost certainly no. So anything that you could really do to someone to try to make up for that is going to fall short of actually getting justice for the actual life. The extinguishment of a life in that manner there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, why I'm surprised a little bit that you are operating from the presumption that he didn't mean to hurt him, or that this was.
I didn't say he didn't mean to hurt him. I said he didn't.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I didn't say he didn't mean to hurt him. I said, and the only reason why I say that is because I've been party to situations where people have been killed in fights, and in situations where somebody is punching on them and they get killed. I can't speak to his intent, so I won't.
That's
right. You know what I mean? But what I can speak to is what happened. So at the end of the day, the intent falls short of the reality.
If you were in
the
that
reality
jury,
is that he killed him, and the reality is that there should have been some sort of punishment, and a nice lengthy punishment to let people know that you can't put your arms around people, your arms around people's neck on a train and choke them until they die.
I think that's right. As an abolitionist, I don't think about. think less about how I would have arrived at a conclusion to convict Daniel Penny, but I do think that it's somewhat implausible that a Marine who knows how to subdue someone with a chokehold wasn't also told that if you hold anybody in a chokehold for 5 or 6 minutes, they're going to die. And so
you think it was his? You think it was his intention to kill him?
I think a couple of things. I think white supremacy is irrational. And I think that there's a way that when you are holding a person for 5 minutes in the chokehold, you know to let up at some point. But when it's a black person, you perceive them as superhuman, super strong, super Negro, and decide you might need to hold them a little bit longer because they might be a little more impervious to pain. There's a long history of people thinking black people are a little more impervious to pain, a little stronger, a little more
And
violent.
you're also imbued with righteousness.
And there's that, right?
Yeah.
I'm rescuing this train from this Negro. Do I think that he's a foaming at the mouth racist? No. Do I think he's a white supremacist? Probably not. Do I think that he woke up that morning and said, I'm going to kill somebody? No. Do I think when he went and subdued dude, he thought he was going to kill him? No. But I do think there's a way in that moment that we heighten our belief that this person is dangerous. We heighten our belief that this person is superhuman physically. And I think that allows us to keep that choke hold on a little bit longer, just like we did with Eric Garner, just like other situations as well. And I wonder, I think if there's a white guy, let me put it differently. I think if there's a white guy on that train, he jumps up and puts him in a chokehold too. I'm not sure he chokes him for 6 minutes though.
Yeah. I agree. I guess I'm always interested. I saw you on the JBP talking about your philosophy about abolition. And it was very nutritious content because I've seen some other stuff with you on the JBP, and I'm like, oh, Mark is falling into the bullshit. It's happening. Okay.
It's a steady diet, man.
Yeah, but the content is good over there. And in that particular back and forth, what I saw was people who had a way of thinking about something. It's actually kind of the best representation of what you hope to happen in a conversation. People who had an opinion about something, they made a snap judgment about something, and then when they were enlightened, they maybe not came around to your way of thinking completely, but they understood where you were coming from, and it was very, very it was refreshing to see. I do wonder though, in the situation of abolition, what would you have hoped happened to Daniel Penny?
So that's the question my wife asks me every time something like this happens, and I never have a great answer. This is the tension. This is the work of abolition to figure this out. I would tell you two things before that, right? I think as an abolitionist, I start from the place of saying, in a moment where a person is struggling with mental illness and on a train unhoused, we've already failed. Right? We've already set them up for criminalization because the way our society is set up, the only thing we know to do with an unhoused mentally ill person is to cage him in some form or fashion. Either wait for them to commit a crime of survival, or wait for them to self-medicate, or criminalize their very homelessness with these camping laws, et cetera, anti-camping laws, et cetera. So Jordan Neely was already set up for a death sequence no matter what. So as an abolitionist, the first thing I talk about is investing in the caring community, what King will call the beloved community. We got to figure out a way to avoid these situations. Now, I get that doesn't answer your question directly, but I'm just saying I don't begin my thinking at the level of the death sequence. I start before there. I think the question for me, if I thought Daniel Penny were operating out of malice, if I thought that he was just jumping on subways, choking people out, or killing Negroes whenever, I would be more inclined to say that he has some kind of mental health issue. I would be more inclined to say that he is a danger to society, and he might meet the criteria for what abolitionists call restraint of the few, right? That there are a few people who are so dangerous that they just need to be held out of society, but that's not almost any of us. But in this case, I don't think that's what happened. If he is really trying to save people on the train, but deep down there's some white supremacist shit in there, if deep down there's some implicit bias that got him to hold that chokehold too long that otherwise would be okay, then I don't think prison is what he needs. He definitely needs training, definitely needs some kind of mental health shit to deal with this. The family definitely needs restitution. He definitely needs to learn from this. But unfortunately, in that case, this would be, in my mind, a situation where someone was killed. It was unfortunate. It was awful. It was ultimately preventable, but it wasn't driven by malice. And putting Daniel Penny in a cage for 5 years or 3 years or 20 years won't do anything restorative, not just for Jordan Neely's family, but it also doesn't dissuade other people from doing it, because the public isn't reading this as a vigilante on the subway. They're reading it as somebody who legitimately thought, and maybe was right, that somebody's really wild on the train could be a danger. And so I don't, as I get older, and this is definitely some I'm getting older shit, I can see that. I think about, what if my wife or my daughter were on this subway and somebody's walking through the corridor, threatening to harm people, dangerous, etc. And right when they're about to lunge at my loved one, someone subdues them, and then in subduing them, the person dies. I have criticisms of that. I still think you can't choke somebody for 6 minutes. I still think we need to find something restorative, but I also don't want to lock that person away. That for me isn't there. And I know you didn't say that they should be, but that's where I'm struggling with.
I love my abolitionist friends. I love you guys.
I hate you.
I love you guys because
that's the tone I give my kids when they want a pony for Christmas.
No, I love you guys because you keep my mind open to the possibility of what society could be, as my feet stay cemented in the reality of what society is. Because when we talk about these things, it always comes back to root causes and the examination of systemic dysfunction that has led us to the spots that we're in. But the reality of the situation is that, what the fuck do you do with somebody who killed somebody? You know what I mean? And the weird thing is that all of these things are one and the same. In our hyper consumer capitalist hedonist society, the thing that people value the most is the ability to go get a big gulp and a burger whenever they want. It's to have it's to go on OnlyFans whenever they want. That's the thing that people value. And a lot of times the only way to punish them is to take that thing from them. Now, I'm not a big fan of the carceral state. I'm not. I like to explore all the questions of abolition because I think they lead to better societies. But I'm emotional enough, and I have enough of a, I guess, quaint mindset to say that if you kill a black person for no reason, I want something bad to happen to you. And and maybe here with the Jordan Neely situation, it's not quite that cut and dry.
I don't think it is.
The brother needed help, but I think the more insidious thing to me here is you have yet another black life extinguished, where I feel like the result doesn't merit the action that started it.
And I think ultimately that's why I'm with this case. Is like, I'm outraged that Daniel Penny's going to go home and nothing's going to happen to him. But I also would be outraged if he got locked away for life.
Oh, I disagree with you.
Say more.
Something's going to happen to him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he is about to be wealthy. And he is about to be famous. And he is about to be speaking. He is about to be everywhere. He is going to become the face. Daniel Penny is about to fucking be Batman. So it's not that something bad. No, something's going to happen to him. He's Kyle Rittenhouse 2.0. Because remember, it's not just that nothing bad happens to you when you do this. Right. If you're Darren Wilson, raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. Derek Chauvin, if you're George Zimmerman, if you are deified for doing what you're supposed to do in America, which is keep a nigger in their place.
And that's the part that I can't sit with comfortably, but also it's hella hard to legislate. I was on Piers Morgan earlier today. Piers called him a hero. Other people called him a hero. And you're absolutely right. They're definitely poised for that. I want to talk to you. I got two more things I want to ask you about before you go, man. First one is Palestine, man. You are one of nothing crazy. You can go wherever you want with it or where you don't want. I saw your eyes get big. I got scared. You're one of those people who I have deep admiration for, particularly around your intellectual ethic. After October 7th, you were like, yo, I'm going to learn and understand what's happening in Palestine.
Right.
And you ain't just like do the Wikipedia thing. You didn't do the barbershop Google. You read the books. You looked at the histories. You read primary sources. You read some of the leading Israeli historians. That book right there, it earned my permanent respect. For those who don't know, he's holding up The Birth of the Palestinian Refugee Problem, 1947 to 1949. That is by Benny Morris. Benny Morris, one of the preeminent Israelis.
It was hard to find. Look, it's got a library card in the back of it.
How much you pay for that book, bro?
Bro, I think it was like $100 or something like that.
Or
not, maybe not $100, but it was. Look, this book is very worn. Like, it was hard to find. It was not easy to find.
That is an old school book from one of the new revisionists in Israeli historiography. That's a major book. Scholars don't even read that book. They pretend they read it, but they don't read it. You read it. You took the issue seriously.
Yeah.
You learned a lot. You studied a lot. You asked tons of questions. You figured it all out. Not all of it, but enough of it. 14 months later, after watching this genocide happen, after speaking up for Palestine, for Palestinian people, after offering critiques of politicians who were being trashed on this issue, and after watching maybe, I don't know if you agree with this, maybe a Biden/Harris not get reelected, not totally for this issue. I think the economy was a bigger issue, but certainly this was part of the mix of why a lot of people weren't rocking with them. Where are you on this question of Palestine, particularly as a Black person?
It's complicated. And I'll be completely honest with you. It's complicated. Being a Black American, for me at least, means that you've lived this life where you've continuously implored people to treat you and your community in a different way, based upon a moral understanding of human life. Like, you look around and you go, there's no way that you think this is right. Particularly when you don't have a deeper understanding of the way the gears of America work. Like, look at how y'all got us living. You guys got to hate us. You guys must want us to drink nasty water. You want to kill us in order for white supremacy to steal resources and to make us the beasts of this country, the beasts of burden of this country. They have to convince themselves that they hate us, and they have to pass that hate down to make sure that the caste system is reinforced every generation. So even if it didn't start out of look at the Black skin, we hate them, it had to go there in order for us to exist in the space that we exist in America. Right. So you see that, and you're constantly litigating somebody else's morality. You can't possibly be moral because look how y'all letting us live in a country where everything's supposed to be equal and free.
Right.
3/5 of a human being. You raped my grandmother, my great grandmother, you lynched and killed my grandfather and my people just because they dared to live. And when you're imbued with that sense of morality and you keep coming back to it, it gets very difficult not to see people in that other situation and go, well, what about them too? No matter where they may be. Be they the indigenous people of this land, of Canada, or any other place, any colonized group of people, anywhere, you start to see, oh my God, I feel one with that struggle. And that's always been that way. And with many of our great leaders and our great luminaries, they've adhered to that ethic, right? Then you get to a point in your life where you wonder, are you alone? Has the trick of white supremacy been played so well that the world believes at its core that there's nothing lower than a nigger? So when everybody is grabbing at freedom, you'll reach and you'll help, you'll reach and you'll help, you'll reach and you'll help, and you'll ask for the smallest, tiny bit of sacrifice from somebody else, and they'll go, no. I'm not going to lie to you. That crept into my mind, particularly around the election.
Okay, so that's where I thought you were going. So if I'm understanding you correctly, the election comes up, and there are a lot of people who are saying they're not voting for Kamala Harris because of the Biden-Harris administration's actions over the last 14 months, then 13 months, and because of what Harris has communicated she's going to do if she becomes president. There were Palestinians who said, I am not pulling the lever for genocide. It's a moral non-starter for me. There were Black people who were saying, look, we can't afford to go back to a Trump era. We're vulnerable here too. And we can't afford to be single issue voters, particularly in a way that's going to undermine our prosperity, our well-being. These were, I don't want to oversimplify the arguments, but those two things were happening. It sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly, you were one of those people saying, yo, Palestinians, I need some support here. Or at least I don't need the moral critique of if I yeah.
Not number one, number two. There you go. It's not number one. Number two. So it's number one is hey, I need you guys to vote for the people that sent bombs over there to kill your cousins and literally kill your cousins and your aunts and your uncles and the people that you share community and humanity with. Literally. I get that you can't do that. I get that you can't do that. But when I'm listening to the women in my community and the people in my community talk about what life is going to be like here under an emboldened, evil fascist regime, I don't need to be scolded, right? Because I have stood in opposition to the Democrats, and I've criticized the Democrats, and I've asked for more from the Democrats, and I have asked the Democrats, and I've done it, but what I need now is what Escape needs is a little understanding. Okay. So that's not what we got. What I feel like we got was an erosion of some of the coalition building that happened as we got moralized with by people who are saying, how can you, not looking at the situations that we live through, not looking at immunity for police officers. Man, Trump got elected, and after he won the election, the very next day, he made plans to undo an executive order that had set up a task force to monitor environmental conditions in Black and brown neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's woke policy. It's gone. So Trump gets elected, and right away Black children don't get clean air and clean water and environmental protection. There's a cost, right? And so for me, I'm looking at it and I'm going, if you can't understand why we're rejecting white supremacist fascism in this country with a vote, with the best vote that we got, and if we can't get a little bit of grace and understanding for that, I'm not sure that there's much of a conversation that we can have. Also, when you factor in that in many ways, Trump could possibly be a worse outcome for the people in Gaza than Biden and Harris are. I don't know that he will be, because Mark, I don't know that it can get worse.
Well, that's just it. I made the same argument. I said it'll likely be the same or worse under Trump, based on Trump's history. You know, Trump certainly was no friend to the Palestinian people. Biden is as bad as you can be on this issue in terms of the last 14 months. So Trump will be the same.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you.
No, please.
Do you think that Biden would have moved the embassy to Jerusalem? Do you think that he would have gone so far as to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel?
No, he would have done what every U.S. president has done since 1995, which is just sign a waiver to delay it. Because that's the point, right? Bill Clinton actually signed the legislation with the Congress. To support the Jerusalem embassy move. It's called the Jerusalem Embassy Act. But what U.S. presidents did, and Bill Clinton was the best at this, he was like, look, I'm going to get this right-wing support by moving the embassy, but then I'm not going to piss off the liberals by actually moving the embassy. I'm going to sign a waiver so that no one ever sees this embassy move. And every president from Bill Clinton until Donald Trump signed the waiver. So I think Joe Biden would have signed the waiver, just like Barack Obama signed the waiver. I don't think Joe Biden cuts UNRWA funds either, absent this ridiculous lie and scandal that came up after the ICJ decision. So I think there's material evidence to the larger point you're getting to that, yeah, Trump would be worse, particularly in the West Bank, particularly inside of Israel. I don't think it would get any worse in Gaza, but that's not because Trump is better. It's just because, like you said, I mean, at some point, killing everybody is killing everybody.
Can't kill everybody. Yeah, it can't get much worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get that. But that argument, at least I'll tell you one thing, that argument don't work in night school. There are a lot of people here in this comment section right now who will argue with you that there's no reason to believe Trump will be worse, that no one could be worse than Biden, that Biden is worse than Trump on these issues, and that it's a moral non-starter to vote for genocide. If you vote for Biden, Harris, no matter your reason, it could be all the clean air you're talking about, could be all the schools, could be reproductive justice, could be whatever the thing is, that shit is all trumped by the fact that you're voting for genocide and that is a moral non-starter.
I think that's
there'll be more people saying that, but some of them have even dropped their memberships with me on this platform because I talked about being conflicted about how to deal with this.
So let me tell you something about Black people is that I love them and I also love to have conversation with them. I grew up in Gardere, Louisiana.
Oof.
Right? Gardere, Louisiana, a neighborhood of Baton Rouge. Okay. You can't convince me that clean air, clean water, and those things don't matter. My friend Eddie died of throat cancer when he was 14. There's a sewage treatment plant in our neighborhood. They make us live in a place where we wake up with the smell of shit all around us. People drop dead, cancer, weird diseases, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
Like, I'm not from different big cities. I'm not making a hierarchy. I'm from a place where Black people need help, where we need people that we can count on where we can talk to, count on, because you can't count on any of these people. Fucking can't count on the Democrats for a damn thing. Okay, but we need people that we can talk to, pressure into having conversations about what it is that we need to survive, about our voting rights. I mean, you can't vote for genocide. You might not vote at all. So I get it and I understand it, and I am here to have the conversation, and I'm also here to be criticized for my inability to understand this from a moral standpoint. I'm here to be criticized. I'm here to be kicked in my nuts. If the pain and the swelling goes down and it makes me a better man, I'm here for it. But I also need to be listened to. I need to be listened to when I'm talking about people that aren't in any position to define politically or economically what their reality is. Like, they don't have no spokesman or nobody other than me here to try to understand how to deliver them. They don't know what's going on halfway around the world, and they can't afford to care. And there is no amount of moralizing. There is no amount of conversation that is going to change the fact that we need to get guns, drugs, and bad food off the streets of Baton Rouge. And there is a political infrastructure that is needed to help that. There is education, and there is investment, and there is conversation and action and activism that needs to help that. And it needs to be Black people being focused on Black people. And we need to be great world citizens. And we need to care about what's going on in the global South. We do. But goddamn, man. Like, I get it. I really do. But shit.
So how does that? So I feel you, and I think that argument is persuasive to a lot of people. There are people I know who are legitimately on the left who absolutely stand with Palestine and who absolutely said Black people are dying, and I can't make a choice that doesn't at least give me a puncher's chance of helping my people live a little bit longer, especially when the person I'm choosing won't be significantly better or worse on this Palestine issue than the alternative, right? They'll be the same on that. They'll be very different on this other thing. That's the argument. I get that argument. How do you get from that tension and working through that to this place where I'm seeing online where Palestinians, Black Americans, they're not just having a healthy conversation. It's starting to get tense. It's starting to get heated. People are saying they're dropping out of solidarity movements. People are saying they're no longer going to stand up or show up for other folk. I'm watching and I'm hearing this stuff. And then
just say it. Just say it. You can tell them it's okay.
You can. I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I texted you, and what did I say? All
right, I'm gonna pull up the text. I don't do that.
No. Just give them the gist of it.
But to be clear, you're not the only person. I was just at Columbia University tonight on a panel on Black Palestinian solidarity where someone asked me about what the Kamala Harris election did for the solidarity movement. So you're not the only person who's had the frustration. You articulated it differently than other people. Here's what you said to me. Let me pull it up. You said, we have so many ridiculous texts. You said, this is on November 8th, 3 days after the election. You said, I just had a conversation, and let me tell you, I will never in life care what happens to the Palestinians again. I swear on my father's grave, I'm that serious. Now, I know you were saying that at a moment of frustration and anger. We never actually even got to fully have that conversation about why you felt that way. I knew why you felt that way a little bit because you were the third person that week to call me and have a very similar conversation. Two of those people, counting you, were public figures. And I talked one of the other person through sort of how to think about this and talked about some of the tensions and frustrations I've had going through this. What got you there?
Well, I'm not there because that was temporary. And what I was really hoping was that you would talk me through it, but you left me out in the cold.
You picked a bad week to ask me, man. I was stressed.
Yeah, like, and so I'm not there. And I apologize to the memory of my father that I would swear such a vile thing on him. But once again, I am here for understanding and for accountability. I'm
What
not.
happened? Did a Palestinian like check you or be like, "Yo, you hate us, you love genocide because you support Kamala"? Like, what?
I was in a conversation with 3 people, and they were telling me why Trump was awesome. And I was trying to convince them that the Trump in any way standing up with Muslim and Arab people leaders was a ruse, and that it wasn't going to last. And I was having a conversation with some people, and they were so deeply dismissive of Black and Palestinian solidarity that I did the one thing that someone should never do is I internalized it. The work that I did for to understand the issues in Palestine, it wasn't charity. No one, I'm not owed anything for it. It wasn't charity. It was so that I could have a handle on how to be a better human being and how to be a more informed human being. And so rather than listen to them in that moment and have that conversation, what I did was take it personally. And my Stoicism journey says that you shouldn't do that, which is why I wanted you to read the text. What I do understand is that my feelings on this are complicated, and they are complicated because I want to do the best thing that I can do for people who need freedom and justice everywhere. But I want to do what I have to do for Black people who need freedom and justice here. Anybody who couldn't vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I get it. Anybody who chided Black people for voting for Joe Biden and for voting for Kamala Harris, I don't get it. I don't get it. Anybody that chided them from it, I don't get it. I feel like those people aren't giving Black Americans the same grace and understanding that they're asking for. And that happens way too often for me. And that's the best I can do.
I wonder if Donald Trump had unveiled an amazing plan for Gaza, for the Palestine, for the West Bank, for East Jerusalem, if he had said, I'm going to force Netanyahu's hand and give him a two-state solution, one-state solution, whatever, I'm going to restore UNRWA funds, I'm going to give the right of return, I'm going to do all the things that the Palestinian civil society has been asking for decades. If Donald Trump,
all the settlements, all of that stuff,
all that,
turn the settlements over to Palestinians in the West Bank, the whole nine, yeah.
If Donald Trump says yes to all of that, are Palestinians voting for Trump, even if his domestic policy is the same?
I have no clue.
I'm not asking you to wager a guess as much as I'm saying, based on what we saw in Michigan and other places where people were voting for Trump for a whole lot less, I think if Palestinians were placed in a position where their political choices that best advantage them were at odds with the interests of Black people, I think they would say, we're catching hell. We gotta look out for our own people in the same way that they're doing this now. Now, the options are never that simple. They're always more nuanced and complicated, and oppressions tend to overlap. So people like Donald Trump don't move that way, right? They don't free Palestine and oppress Negroes. But I guess my point is, Black people are being asked in some ways to make political sacrifices and choices that no one else would make if their own people's well-being were on the line so clearly. And I understand the idea of saying long-term, this doesn't hold. We can't support genocide as a principle, but also as a long-term political strategy. It does not work if we continue to let the Democrats be the best option in town, and to let the Democratic position on Palestine be a successful one. I get that. I also know what you just said, which is that people are dying in Baton Rouge, that people are dying in Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia. People are dying right now, and we can make a choice that might make fewer people die. I would never morally chide people for making that choice, even if I disagree with the choice. But I'm watching the solidarity movement break down precisely at that point, because it becomes the moralizing. It becomes the not just I disagree with your choice, but suddenly I've got people telling me I don't give a damn about Palestine. I got people literally telling me I don't care about genocide. And some of it is my ego, some of it is my sensitive feelings. And some of it's like, who is you? Like, there's all that. I get that. All that to say, I ended up for that and other reasons, I ended up where you were that election week. Part of why I couldn't text you back and offer you a good word. What's that? Like I said, I just talked somebody else off the ledge, and in talking them off the ledge, I was getting myself angry again. So I don't know if I could have given you anything better than what I did. But I'm not in that place.
Look, the reality is, it's like, I'm not gonna not care about incinerated children. It's impossible. Like, I've been to, man, let me tell you something. This being black thing, it's not for the faint of heart. Okay? It's not for the faint of heart. You're living in a country that your ancestors built. You're gaslit and told that they didn't have any hand in it. Every single invention that you have is stolen from you. You're doing all of this while you're also expected to be a caretaker for America morally, and a caretaker for America sometimes intellectually and spiritually. You're the unheralded mammy. And part of it is because you continue to ask people for solidarity in your own right. If we're being honest, you ask people for solidarity in your own right. Like, you ask people to post a black box. You tell people to stand up and be anti-racist, and we need everybody, all hands on deck, and you should support this and you should support that. And so that gets thrown right back in your face. I'm over that too. I don't care about any allies whatsoever.
You full of shit, man. You care about
swear to God, I don't care about anybody that takes the time to be an ally for black people. Go for it. I don't believe in it no more. It comes with too many strings. It's like, if we're playing basketball together, I'm not setting a screen for you so I feel good about myself.
Right.
I'm setting a screen for you so that we can score. Not so that you can score, so that we can score. And if I have to set 6 screens so that we score, then I'm gonna do that. Like, if I can't rely on you to set a screen for me, if I can't rely on you to make the game easy for me, then we're not really a team. And what I'm starting to see is that a lot of this allyship is conditional, is superficial, is cosmetic. It doesn't really matter. It comes from people's weird infatuations with black culture. It comes from their weird fetishism of black culture. It's not rooted in any actual politic or political theory or philosophy. It doesn't come from anywhere that's whole or real. All it comes from is vibes. And so I'm sick of having to see people tell us, look what we did for you, now do this for us. I'm getting weird about it. because people aren't willing to kind of get into the nuance of it. So what I'm interested for Black people right now is power, productivity, and peace. The power of our voting block, the power of our economics, the power of what we produce, the power of how we produce it, and the peace that we can get from enjoying both of it. And I don't give a damn who wants to be a part of it or who wants to get down with it.
Samira writes back and says, and then we're going to move on to another topic before we go. I can't believe this is even a discussion. Not everything revolves around Black people and our struggles. Entire families are being wiped out. This is not about us. It's utterly disgraceful. And that dovetails with what Rosability asked, which is, Mark, could you please ask Van about his thoughts and feelings about Palestine separate from the U.S. election? I don't want to belabor this point too much, but because I think to Rosability's question, I think you've been very clear that you find this to be a genocide and disgraceful, and you've been critical of the Biden administration, and you've been critical of the global community for how they've handled Palestine, and you've been very articulate about that. And to be clear, it's on earlier episodes of Night School that people can check out. But so I don't want Rosability to feel like I didn't answer her super chat. But for Samira here, what do you say to the person that says it's not all about you?
It never is, Samira. I understand what you're saying. It never is. It's always about somebody else. It's never about us. It never is. It's not about Don Imus calling the ladies nappy-headed hoes. It's about hip-hop. It's not about George Floyd getting choked out. It's about fentanyl and drug use and him being a criminal. It's not about police brutality. It's about protecting the police. It never is. It never has been. I'm saying it just can't exist like that in perpetuity. It's never. It's not. I get what she's saying, and I get why she feels that way. But I'm not a victim. I'm a well-to-do Black man who got past all of that stuff, who comes from a great family, a father who was good at a lot of things, a mother who is a deity. Like, it's not, it never is. So there you go.
Heard.
So that's how I feel. But like for me, I'll go back to that other question about what organizations.
Yeah. Somebody wrote in and said, A-Rob wrote in with a super chat, and thank you for your generous donation. But in being adjacent to celebrity class, you do that for rich people and whites. Unity is not transactional. What orgs are Van connected to?
I'm connected to all kind of orgs, but one I'm connected to more than any other one is the people and community of South Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And there's not a qualification that I need for it. There's not a GoFundMe. There's not a document. There's no LLC. You know, everybody that needs me, I'm there for them. If it's Black men, build, from the ones y'all like, the ones y'all don't like. Shot Spotter just got killed in Baton Rouge. And that was because somebody that people love to not like, DeRay McKelson, and the people at Campaign Zero told me all about how Shot Spotter leads to criminal interactions in Baton Rouge that put Black people in danger. While people don't want to like him, he's out there doing that stuff. All last year, Campaign Zero was getting rid of Shot Spotter to make people safer in those communities. Yesterday, it's gone. So I'm connected to anybody who want to be connected to me. Anybody who needs a voice and anybody who needs a microphone, the people that we've platformed, the people that we will continue to platform, whether you like me or whether you love me, but I'm just a person.
A-Rob wrote a previous comment. Thank you for that generous donation as well, sir. It's always people that aren't grounded in any organization, aren't doing the real work on the ground, talking about what they aren't going to do. Again, I think Van just addressed that. Let's final question for you, man. What did you make of this Andrew Schultz thing. Andrew Schultz, again, I think everybody out here knows Andrew Schultz at this point, who's part of this conversation. Andrew Schultz is a comedian. He's also our mutual friend Charlamagne's co-host of Brilliant Idiots.
Yeah.
He responded to a Kendrick bar about white comedians criticizing black women. He took that personally. He definitely hollered. He was the hit dog in that case. And then he went through this whole bit about rap music being misogynistic. And then he went to this other bit about sexually assaulting Kendrick Lamar under the language of making love to him. And he caught a lot of heat. And then he came right back on Brilliant Idiots and doubled down on it. Yeah. What'd you make of all of it?
I mean, so the more fascinating psychology of it to me wasn't even in the ridiculous I'm going to have sex with Kendrick Lamar stuff. I mean, that's like bug breaking 101. Like if you want to like take a black man's power, you emasculate him by saying, I can fuck you anytime I want. I can fuck your wife. I can take your things. I can reduce you to nothing. So that part of it that's at play in his mind, even if he doesn't know that it is. The fact that he would go right there is like, it is what it is. It's like crude white boy humor that's based in something that is more pervasive in the cities than the cities. Okay. The more interesting thing was to me when he criticized Kendrick for being a rapper and for everything that rappers have done and said about black women, right? And the reason why that's interesting is because, number one, he couldn't really point to very many things that Kendrick himself had said about black women. Like he didn't bring up a whole bunch of Kendrick lyrics. He brought up the lyrics of people around Kendrick Lamar that he might have worked with or been on stage with or whatever. And if people want to hold Kendrick accountable for people that he might be around, or if he had Kodak Black on a record, or if he had Dr. Dre at the Pop Out or whatever, that's fine. You're welcome to do that. But I always find it interesting when like the same stuff gets repeated over and over and over again. Like whenever black people are offended or whenever there is a cultural foul that's committed by some other group, and there are people who stand up and say, hey, we're drawing a line here, people always say, who are you to draw that line? Look at you. All right. Who are you to ask for the police to stop killing you? Look at how you live. And I tried to point this out, and I probably didn't do it in the best way. My question was, who can we nominate to subvert that? Is there someone pure enough amongst us? It can't be me. I worked at TMZ for 9 years. Is there somebody pure enough amongst us that can just say, hey, we don't like it when tropes about black women are repeated and thrown out there in the form of jokes? We have to at least be able to say, hey, we get that everybody gets the jokes. Everybody should be able to take a joke. But when black women are put in a certain light and represented in a certain way, it bothers us because it's a little bit more detrimental. Let's talk about the history of this, right? Let's talk about the reality of why repeating those narratives might be a little bit more destructive to us or concerning. And then if you say you don't give a fuck, just say you don't give a fuck. That's fine. Everybody got to get jokes. Everybody got to have jokes made about them, all of that stuff. Andrew said on the Brilliant Idiots, he said, paraphrase, he said, I can't hold any group as protected because that's either making that group more or less than everybody else. So either I'm saying that they're better than everybody else, so I won't make fun of them, or I'm saying that they're less than everybody else, so I won't make fun of them. Fine. That's your logic. That's the way you look at things. Insult comics and comics that make racial jokes and all of that stuff like that, it's not something that's new. However, telling us or telling Kendrick Lamar that he's not qualified to stand up for black women, that to me is a little bit more interesting that you would go there. Because the fact that we're not qualified to defend ourselves, that we haven't attained what we've needed to say stop, is really, to me, something that's deeply, deeply rooted in some of the conversations that white supremacy has with black people in terms of how they're supposed to go about doing what it is that they do. Remember, all Malcolm X said was, if you shoot at me, I'll shoot back. That's all he said.
Yeah.
Dr. King said, slap me in my shit and I'll give you another shot. But like all Malcolm X said is, if you shoot at me, I'll shoot back. And white people made it seem like he was fucking Magneto.
What if we read Andrew Schultz generously, as some people have, and we hear him saying, my issue is not that Kendrick isn't qualified, it's that this is a selective outrage that really is patriarchal in and of itself. Y'all don't want to actually not have black women disrespected. Y'all don't want misogyny to go away. You just want to be the exclusive proprietors of it.
You asking that to me?
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of what Schultz was saying in his follow-up, right? It's like he was kind of saying, like, why y'all pretending y'all care about me now when all y'all do is make misogynistic music?
Okay, he's not qualified to have that conversation with us. That's the first thing. Like, that's the first thing. Secondly, with me, let me be completely honest with you. I don't know what it was particularly, but when Schultz first said what he said, the percentage of every single black woman I know they were mad. So forget about me. Forget about my need or Kendrick Lamar's need or your need or Charlamagne's need to be the knight in shining armor and think of it. They were saying, hey, this pisses us off. Where do y'all stand on it? That's the thing. It's not necessarily coming back from a standpoint of like some egregious thing was said and we have to mob up. If you were listening to black women at that time, they were upset about it. And the only thing that you can do that would be worse than to engage in this, in the misogyny that you just talked about, would be to ignore them when they say that they want you to say something. That's the only thing that you could do that was worse. That's the word. The only thing that's worse than performative protection would be complete abandonment. And so when me and Rachel are on the podcast and Rachel is saying what she's saying, I have to make sure that I hold space and give Rachel the support that she needs in that moment.
Right.
Community first. Now, y'all, if we want to have a conversation about the language in hip hop, then it's going to be a tough one because like me and Rachel had a conversation about a particular DMX lyric that I've never forgot from It's Dark and Hell is Hot. And we talked about it on the podcast tomorrow, and probably going to be a lot of people mad that I brought it up. But when we're talking about some of these lyrics are fucking disgusting. And they're like all in here. And that's real. Yeah. So,
and I think where I get frustrated is that, because I agree. I think you should not be perfect to stand up. And I think even if you did, I think his track record allows him to speak the way he did. And I think it becomes a deflection for sure from the actual issue here. I think there's also, for me, the question of, do you feel like you have sometimes with Schultz in particular, not sometimes, in this case with Schultz in particular, it feels almost like he thinks he has an insider pass. And so some of his reaction is like, wait, I'm me, y'all. What y'all tripping for? I'm part of this. I'm inside. Why y'all giving me a hard time about this? You know I don't hate y'all. You know I'm not racist. You know blah 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 blah. Everybody gets these jokes from me. Is that partly a function of us just giving him too much insider status?
been around for a long time. Tell your jokes. I'm not tripping on it. Tell your jokes. Comedians tell the jokes and then they go, we have to deal with the consequences. And then the consequences to come and they go, why are there consequences? Like they go, there shouldn't be any consequences. I shouldn't be, well, I tell the jokes, just tell your jokes, deal with the background, deal with the backlash, all of it. Okay. That's the thing. Say your stuff that you want to say. And then when people decide that they don't fuck with it, they don't fuck with you, they don't like it, don't call them soft, don't call them this, don't call them that. Just deal with it. Also, I'll say something about what we're talking about in terms of us defending ourselves. Mark, that's a standard that's only reserved for us. Right now, if I called an Italian person a wop, a Guido, a greaseball, or if I was in some way making fun of them based upon any type of racial stereotype that comes from them being mobbed up or whatever, all of that stuff. If I was to say that and then the Italian community gets mad at me, right? And I say, well, you know, the images that I have of Italian people come from David Chase, who made The Sopranos, who's an Italian man, Martin Scorsese, who made Goodfellas and Casino and The Irishman, who's an Italian man. Like Francis Ford Coppola, who made The Godfather and The Godfather 2, who's an Italian man. Some of the biggest, most important artists in your culture have portrayed Italian people as gangsters, as people that are involved in illegal shit. And so that means that if I disrespect your culture in any way, I say that you guys are fat, that you indulge in gluttony, that you constantly cheat on your wives and all of this stuff. This stuff is pervasive enough of in culture for me to have a pass to assume that that's how you really are, or for me to divorce you guys of your right to say, hey, don't talk about Italians like that. Which, by the way, none of this is true of Italian Americans. I'm just saying that won't fly. No one will even listen to that. It would be such a ridiculous thing that no one would, that only works with Black people, because we are the only group in America historically that has had to qualify to be human. And so for me, I'm just saying, when I look at that and I hear that now, I recognize the trick bag, and it's important to call it out and have the conversation in it. I'm not about to make Andrew the next David Duke, but I'm saying everything that happened in this in this back and forth was worth it, and we'll see where it goes now.
Word. Well, we're gonna keep tracking that, bro. Yo, thank you for doing this, man. I know you're a busy man. I know, especially with the new hairline, you got a lot more demands on your time. So I appreciate you taking the time to build with me.
Hey, night school. I'm still with y'all. I was wavering. Okay. I'm not all the way to the left. So Mark is here. Okay. Mark is here. Bro, I'm here. All right. Like I'm getting there to the abolition, right? Like I'm getting there to the abolition. I'm getting there, but there's a part of me sometimes that think, you know,
lock that nigga up.
That niggas need to go to Mark, I love you. I am so happy for all your success. And same. I didn't think it was gonna work, but you on the JBP is some gold, man. I gotta give that fucking insane ass nigga Joe credit, because it has really rounded out the show well, and it's good content that's getting made over there, for real.
Man, I appreciate you. I love you too, man. You know, I just appreciate all your support and love it. And I appreciate that you're the same person all the time. And you're earnest, you're honest, you're sincere, you're passionate, you're principled, and you're very smart. And that's a combo that doesn't come around a whole lot, man. So thank you for being you all the time, bro. Everybody, make sure you check out Higher Learning. You can see a new episode tomorrow. Go to YouTube, check it out. It's gonna be dope. Make sure you, in fact, check it out all the time. Every twice a week, right?
Twice a week.
twice a week. Make sure y'all check it out. My brother, I'll see you soon.
All right, brother. Peace.
Peace. Everybody, that's about it for night school. Before we go, I just want to say one quick note for those that don't know. One of our giants has passed away. Nikki Giovanni, the famed poet, the legend of the Black arts movement, has passed away at the age of 81. Following her third cancer diagnosis, she has been a warrior. She has battled and she has returned to the ancestors. A statement was issued by Kwame Alexander, a poet and a friend of hers, saying, "We will forever be grateful for the unconditional time she gave to us, to all her literary children across the writerly world." If you don't know, Nikki Giovanni published her first poetry collection. It's called Black Feeling, Black Talk back in 1968. And at that moment, she, along with a whole bunch of other significant artists, people like the great Haki Madhubuti, people like the great Sonia Sanchez, were part of the Black arts movement. And it was about the intersection of art and politics and grassroots struggle. And what Nikki Giovanni did in her own work was nothing short of extraordinary. People often talk about a word poem where at the end she said, "Let's build what we become when we dream." Y'all Southern people out there, I know it's a lot of Southern folk in night school. She was born in June 7th, 1943. Yes, a Gemini, in Knoxville, Tennessee. Although she grew up in Cincinnati, she went back to Nashville, Tennessee, because she was an HBCU grad. She attended Fisk University, the same place that the great W.E.B. Du Bois attended. And she met all kinds of folk there who would be life-changing figures for her. People like Dudley Randall, people like Margaret Walker, and of course, the great Amiri Baraka. She also joined SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It's at that moment that she becomes one of the most important figures in our community, in our cultural community, in our poetry community, in our literary community, and even in our political community. A lot of people got to know Nikki Giovanni in the last couple of years, a whole new generation, because they watched her old episodes of Soul, which used to come on WNET. And one of the conversations that she had on Soul was with the great James Baldwin. This was right after she was named Woman of the Year by Ebony Magazine. And their exchange is on YouTube. Y'all should check it out. If you haven't watched the Nikki Giovanni James Baldwin conversation, it is special. It's worth watching every minute of. Eventually, Nikki Giovanni became not just a great poet, but a great professor. She taught English at Virginia Tech for, I think, 30 plus, I know, over 30 years. She's been a celebrated teacher, a celebrated mentor, a celebrated poet. She's been all the things. I didn't know Nikki Giovanni particularly well. I met her at the celebration of Black Writers in Philadelphia a bunch of times. I've met her on the road a few times. She's always very kind, very sweet, very generous with her time. But for those who did know her well, I've heard nothing but extraordinary things. And when you live 81 years and people are mostly saying great things about you, it means something. But in addition to leaving these great mentees and these great lectures and these great video clips, she's also leaving a legacy of extraordinary writing. So if you need something to do tonight, if you need something to read tonight or tomorrow, go grab a Nikki Giovanni book, grab a Nikki Giovanni poem, read it, sit with it, and learn what it means to be part of this extraordinary tradition. Rest in peace to the great Nikki Giovanni. All right, family, that is it for night school. I hope you had a good time with my man, Van Lathan. He's an extraordinary brother, man. It's always good to see him. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that join button. When you hit the like button, it lets the YouTube algorithms know that corporate media is not the only game in town, that we too have something to say and that you're paying attention to us. When you hit the subscribe button, it expands our social media footprint, which allows us to get the content out to more people. And if you are so inclined, the join button gives us the financial stability that we need for the channel, because you will become a monthly paid member of the channel. For as low as $3.99 a bronze membership, you can become a monthly paid member of the channel. But I understand that you can't always make a monthly commitment. If that's the case, make a one-time commitment, what we call the monthly tuition at night school. You ain't got to do it once, no promises, no commitments. Just go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. The links are on the screen right now. You go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, and you can drop whatever you want. If you leave $1, we are so grateful. If you give $1 million, I promise you we'll be a little more grateful, but we will really appreciate it. But what we're asking for tonight is that everybody watching, if everybody watching right now were to leave $10, if everybody watching right now were to drop $10, we will be able to meet our financial goals for the month and build for the future. That's how you get night school Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's how you get office hours on Sunday at 9 p.m. That's how you get coffee and books and the classroom in the cell on the weekends. It's how you get these special reports. It's how we build a staff. It's how we're able to book people. We do all of this with resources, grassroots resources. We don't have a corporate check written to us. We don't have mainstream media underwriting us. This is all from the power of the people. So if you could give $10 right now, we will be grateful. Anyway, family, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the join button. Also hit that share button. Share the platform and share Night School with everybody in your social media circle. But most of all, in addition to liking the content, joining the content, sharing the content, subscribing to the content, the most important thing is that you study the content, because that is what Night School is all about. I'll see y'all tomorrow, family.